I'm speaking English? Who can understand me well speaking English? Please raise your hands. Okay. And anyone having trouble understanding my German accent? Okay, so then we can start. Recent dynamics about dairy farms around the world. When Sylvie started the session, she had the picture of the iceberg. 10% is out of the water, 90% is under the water. So what drives where the iceberg goes? The wind on top of the 10% or the 90% under the water? It's the 90% under the water. And I've been analyzing dairy economics now for 20 years, and I get more and more in the understanding that we need to look under the water, and farm economics is a major driver of what's under the water. So let's have a look. I structured the presentations in 5 units. I would like to talk about milk prices, about our network, about dairy farm structure trends, about farm economics, and then sum up. The summary of my presentation is basically on this poster. This poster we print once a year after we have written a book about the dairy world of 200 pages. And this is all somehow a summary of a very complex dairy world. So let's start with milk prices. This chart, the red line, is summarizing the prices Vincent presented for all the dairy commodities. We calculate out of all the dairy commodities a price, a farm gate milk price, what is the value of milk on the world market, which we can relate to a dairy farm. And this price you can find on our website, and I recommend whenever you want to do any study in your country, see where this price is and relate it to your national price. What you see in the chart is that we are in a roller coaster world. Nevertheless, on average, everything was okay. On average, the price was around 40 or 38 US dollar cent. But we had the different swings. And the last crisis had the up phase in 2013-14, and now 15 and 16, the down phase, but we are now getting back to normal. So what is the driver for this milk price? This chart again complements the one from Vincent. This is basically all dairy trade combined into milk equivalents. So all dairy products, and the green and gold bullets are then the net exports, and the red bullets are the net imports. And you see that we have a small number of net exporting countries dominated from temperate climates, mainly importing dairy products into tropical and subtropical climates. And I might give you a little bit of indication on our World Dairy Map. We have the same slide here, but we have regionalized it. And if you regionalize the milk surplus deficit in the United States, you find that Florida, for example, has a self-sufficiency in milk of 25%. 25% local milk in Florida, 75% imported. That's basically the same thing what we found in Southeast Asia and a lot of African countries. Why is that the case? Well, the next speaker will talk about there's a competition between local milk and imported milk. And the policy interferes, but then these economic drivers are very strong and bring us to this situation. On the other hand side, you could also see on this chart what happens in our crisis if China dropped back in demand 50% that year and Russia dropped back, how much demand we lost on the world market, which is then a very simple explanation why prices are so low. So this is for me the most easy chart to explain drivers of world market prices. It's the end supply demand of these red and blue bullets. Now let's have a look on how this world market prices, so the red line, affects milk prices in other countries. I've chosen on the first slide saying how does the German and the French price relate to the world market prices. And you see that in general, this price in Europe follows the world market price. It has not followed the price fully on the downs in 2009, but in 2015-16, we have seen a much deeper drop of prices. And you see two neighboring countries react a little different. So French farmers seem to be much more lucky getting higher milk prices, while the Germans get much lower milk prices. But what happens then with the competitiveness of the French cheeses? French lost in competitiveness and became a major importer of cheese from Germany. Because this milk price represents 80% of the production cost of a dairy product. And if you have these little differences between Germany and France in 2009, but also in 2015-16, it puts a tremendous threat on the French cheese producers and puts the Germans in a tremendous advantage. So, now let's have a look on what might be the story. Now I've chosen Morocco and Senegal here. And we found in Morocco quite a stability of prices in here, much more stable than Europe. Not taking always the highs, but not taking the lows. So that's the good news. But please consider, if you don't want to take the lows, like here or here, you can only do it with tariffs. And for Morocco, if the world milk price is on $20 and you want to pay your farmers $40, you need 100% tariff. Do you have 100% tariff? Is it allowed? And if you have it, you can protect your country. If you don't have it, at a certain point milk comes in. Because from here you can take your tariff, the red line plus the tariff, that is then the entry price of milk from the international market, where the local price competes. So, now let's have a look at Senegal. Senegal, Christian, thanks a lot for providing this data. I made the annual averages because the seasonality is so high. But if milk for a local farmer in Senegal costs 60, and the international price is on 20 to 30, then local milk is by far more expensive for the processor than imported milk, and it's very hard to be competitive with that milk. So far it looks to me that Morocco is in a medium position regarding this competition indicator. So, let me explain a little bit how we in IFCN work. The IFCN has a mission to create a better understanding of the dairy world by first providing comparable data, knowledge and inspiration. And this whole thing has three pillars. There's a network of researchers, a network of companies, and a group of people in Kiel. And this whole IFCN network has developed out of my PhD thesis. And those of people who are in here and do PhD research, be ambitious, make something out of your PhD, because this could be very nice. Currently, there are researchers from more than 100 countries participating. That's what you see on the left. These are usually university people, dairy board people, Ministry of Agriculture people, inter-industry people. And then we have a group of companies where the main funding from the IFCN comes from, which are also contributing mainly with funding for our work. To gather data and to gather knowledge, we have a structured process and in an annual way. So in January we have a kickoff meeting, we implement plan of work. Then we collect data. In June we bring researchers together and we validate the data and share the results. In September we sit together with companies, then we publish the book, and then we also do regional workshops. The last one was in India, facing on the India-specific challenges. So, this was somehow the network. Now let's have a look into the dairy farm structure. And here we have very good news. We try to estimate how many dairy farmers we have in the world. In some countries we have data, in some countries we have estimates. But what we came up with is probably that we have 121 million dairy farmers. In Africa, maybe 13.5 million. The majority of these farmers is in emerging market countries, and most important, when we talk about milk production, it provides an input for livelihoods of around 1 billion people every sentence. How does it come? Well, if you take 100 million, 20 million dairy farmers with 5 people per household, you end up already with 600 million people. And then we estimated probably downstream, upstream household, families, jobs around 400 million. We at the moment currently with FAO revising these numbers. But dairy has 1 billion people impact. And whenever some people talk with you about dairy is bad for consuming, people say dairy is good for people. Dairy is not the problem, dairy is the solution. And whatever is bad in the dairy chain, if dairy fixes that, then dairy is the solution for CO2 or whatever comes out there. And a map of what might be the average farm size in different countries. Once again, a lot of that is estimates. But the world average dairy farm size right now is 2.9 cows. So there's scope for development, and a very small number of countries have farm sizes with more than 100. In Africa, we estimate that at the moment the average farm size is about 5.3. By looking at that and doing dairy farm economics now for 20 years, we made a very simple approach. We said we have basically 3 types of farms. We have household farms, we have family farms, and we have business farms. So how do we classify household farms? Small farms, most of the milk produced is consumed on the household, and dairy is contributing only part of the income to the household. So the main driver is having a continuous cash for some daily needs. That's household farming. Family farming, larger farms, more specialized, most of the work is done by family members, and the key driver here is to generate family income, not return of investment or whatever. And on the business side, work is mainly done by employees. Farm size is definitely higher than 300 cows in developed countries. And these countries, like every business, need to create a return of investment that is higher than the interest rate. So if interest rate is 5%, this needs to at least generate 8 to 10%, otherwise it's not viable. So we could classify farms in these categories, and overall probably 80% of the farms is in the upper side, and 0.3% of the farms globally probably are in this segment. If you look at production, probably in each of these 3 segments we have a third of world milk production. That means already here 0.3% of the farms globally produce a third of the milk. That's where we are. This is a chart somehow what we think in what region, what farming system at the moment is dominating. And you see the orange countries where the larger business farms are dominating. You see in Latin America, especially in Europe, Turkey, where we think that more the family farms are operating, but in a lot of countries, basically the household farming systems are operating. And let's be honest, a household farming model in a case of smallholder crop land and low salaries is a fantastic opportunity, and what makes these farms very competitive. This chart shows a little bit of the dynamics, how many cows we have in what size segment. So in India you see the major number of cows is in the blue segment, the household farms, you see that here. And this farm, this has not made the transition out of the households. Brazil has been on the blue household side, but mainly made the transition into the family farming units. And US has made the transition from the family farming units fully into the business farm units. And once the structural change has started, it becomes very fast, very strong, and have never in the world seen a tool which was able to stop it. Nevertheless, a lot of policymakers tried to stop it, but it has never worked. That's what I saw so far. So, now let's have a look at dairy farm economics. The way in IFCN we work, we thought, why is this so important? Well, for the future of the dairy region, good dairy farm economics and competitiveness of farmers is a key driver for success. If we have it, you have a bright future. If your farmers are not competitive, you don't produce, you have stress with the processors, farmers quit, your future farmers don't want to join in. So how do we do now dairy farm economics? We have a concept built now for 20 years. We have the concept of typical farms, so we define in every country what might be the typical farm in a specific country. We have one standard model, which we put the data in, we validate the results with experts, and then we cooperate between the researchers and validate what the results are. And right now we do this economic analysis in 52 countries, which I can share on this map. Here it shows a little bit on what farm types have we analyzed. Let's start with New Zealand. It's pretty simple. An average farm there is around 350 cows, and larger farms are around 1,200. In Germany, we define at the moment an average farm size of around 30 cows, and the larger 130. Poland is 60 and 65. Morocco, we have had analyzed the 3 cow and the 14 cow farm. In Algeria, we had a 6 cow and the 80 cow. And in the United States, Wisconsin, there was a farm with 80 cows and larger farm with 500. So that's how we try to do together, collect the data, standardize the data, and then we come up with something what we could call a cost map of average size farms. So red means costs are high, and the higher red things are, the higher the costs are. And what we find, for example, cost leaders are right now Canada, Norway, Finland, Japan, Switzerland. Major. But what we also found right now, the costs in China are higher than Europe. You have that already. That has changed. It was 5 years ago it was different, but strong increase of salaries, etc. Currencies have moved it in that way. India now costs also in the red zone. They were cheap, but rising salaries have brought that cost up on that level. We have sometimes green countries at the moment, Argentina, South Africa, a little bit of Uganda, Indonesia. These are regions where we think cost of production is on the lower side. And then you have farms on the gray zone, and the gray zone is somehow between 30 and 40 US dollar. And at the moment we see that probably in Northern Africa, 30 to 40 US dollar might be possible. Why? In general, costs are high, but extremely high beef prices makes, as a side product of dairy, makes dairy very competitive. Direct payments, like heavily used in Algeria, makes farms competitive. And also current currency devaluations make dairy more competitive. That's the story. So, this is a chart showing a little bit the dynamics of cost. On the left chart you see the blue line, the green line is New Zealand. New Zealand 2000 was basically the ultimate cost leader in production.